Street Cred
Hello, this
Sports.
is Keenan of Street Cred Sports Training,
Street
and
Cred
welcome to another
Sports.
episode of Time to Ball.
I'm crossing over. I'm Euro stepping.
There's no other way around it. Getting into the summer, I know with school it's almost about one more month left before school starts again. Since school in El Paso is year round for most districts. So it doesn't seem like they got much of a break, but they're getting ready to go. So hope everybody's doing well. You know, I'm doing what I do, and I'm not going to sit up here and ramble. I'm going to get right into it. Now, I'm going to get into the things that interest me, and I'm adding this late. My producer I didn't add it to the schedule. I'm adding it late because it's something that I actually saw 10 minutes before I went on. So I wanted to share it with you. All right, so there was a college coach for Texas A&M baseball. His name is Jim Schlossnagle. I think that's his last name. I'm sorry, Coach, if I messed your name. I do not want to disrespect your name. Okay, they just lost, I believe, on Monday night for the Men's College World Series, right? They lose. After they lose, he's on, they interview everybody, the players and stuff. He gets interviewed. They asked him, hey, I know it's kind of a hard time to ask you this. You just lost, but do you have any thoughts about the vacancy at Texas for their head coach job? His response was, and this is a quote, "I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job." Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me start with where he actually started for. He says, "I think it's pretty selfish of you to ask me that question, to be honest with you. But I left my family to be the coach at Texas A&M. I took the job at Texas A&M to never take another job again. And that hasn't changed in my mind. That's unfair to talk about something like that. I understand you've got to ask the question, but I gave up a big part of my life to come take this job. And I've poured every ounce of my soul in this job. And I've given this job every single ounce I can possibly give it. Write that." Okay, all right, well, that's like, wow. Yo, I'm feeling that, Coach. You letting him know. You ain't trying to hear that. Dog, he fucking took the job at Texas. But not only did he take it, he apparently, now I don't know, they were reporting that he had already accepted the Texas job prior to them even playing in the national championship. So he knew when he was being asked that he was out because they made the announcement less than 24 hours after the fact. Now, I get it. You're going to leave. And for some context, the athletic director at Texas and him are really close. They're old friends. So I get how you would look at going. But when you make that statement, you're basically like, man, like, who the hell are you to be asking me that? I'm Texas A&M, dog. I'm an Aggie. What you talking about? Now he's a Longhorn. So the moral of the story is, it's sad because it's almost like you can't even believe what people say now because you don't know what they're looking at doing. Like, people are lying. Not everybody. Some people are lying in your face. He could have said, look, you know what? I don't want to think about this right now. I want to think about what we just went through, what we accomplished. Texas, the AD and I are really close, so I can see how you would, make that correlation. But I'm going to take, a little time to reflect and go from there. And then maybe you make that sign. But when you make that statement, damn. Now, here's my tie-in. Because when you see this kind of stuff, you can understand now, if you haven't already, why players are leaving after a year. Why players are taking these different things, why they're entering the portal and all of this stuff, NIL, because of stuff like this. Because in my mind, that coach can never sit in front of me and talk about a loyalty to the program. Being honest, being accountable, the things that you want young men to be, since he's a coach of a men's baseball team. You can't talk to me about that all I have to do is pull up the video and say, well, damn, coach. Well, can you tell me the honest and accountability in this statement that you made? You were on TV. You were in 4K. So how do you sit in front of people's room and talk to them about doing it? Do I think he's gonna leave again? Probably. Now look, Texas is a historic program when it comes to college baseball. They've won numerous college championships, right? So maybe I think this could be home, but I don't know, because he said last place was old and then he left. Man, I can imagine that, like, oh, hey, Coach Cage, I've been hearing some rumors that you're looking at moving the business to Dallas. Now, why would you ask me some shit like that, man? I'm EP for life, dog. I'm here. Okay, well, I was just wondering, because I saw the moving trucks out there, and it looks like you were moving. Oh, no, we just cleaning up some stuff, and it kind of gets cluttered every year, so I got to put some stuff out in storage and stuff. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to go right now. I'm closing up the place. Yeah, but we just started our training. Oh yeah, no, I'll send you a refund. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, I'll mail it from my office in Dallas. Come on, man. You can't be doing that. You can't be doing that, coach. Oh my God. He is going to be the butt of a lot of memes and jokes and everything. And I feel bad for him, because I think he was kind of put on the spot and he didn't really know how to answer it. But knowing how media is, knowing that somebody probably tipped him off, that you had signed and that you were probably leaving, you got to be prepared for that. So I would just say, look, right now it's not the time to talk about that. I just lost this game, and be done with it. He'll ask the follow-up question, and you just say, I'm not trying to talk about that, man. I'm really not. You'll know when you know, or something. Oh man. But in any case, it was like, I don't want to say breaking news, but it was like, I just heard them talk about that, and I had to look it up, and I was like, wow, that's bad. Okay, so let me get to things that interest me. Not as much as that did, apparently, but let me get to more things. All right, so JJ Redick was hired. He's going to be the new coach of Los Angeles Lakers. Do I think it's a good hire? I mean, I don't know. JJ's never coached before, and you hear people in some circles saying, hey, he has no coaching experience. How are you going to take him over somebody else who's maybe qualified? Sometimes you think outside the box. I know Steve Nash got hired, and he wasn't a coach. He hadn't really spent time on the bench. He was more of a consultant, and his situation didn't really go well because you had all that other stuff going on. So maybe JJ is going to be a great coach, but mark my words. Okay, so before I issue this statement, let me give you a little context. JJ made comments about Doc Rivers and how he felt Doc Rivers was disingenuous with him and with other players, and that it was, I think he said something to the effect that, it's always somebody else's fault with Doc. Doc never takes accountability and stuff for what he does, right? So it was a big deal at the time, because you had players coming out, getting on JJ, but because of what he said. JJ's like, man, you know what? Forget y'all. I that's the way I feel, and that's the way things went. Now you a coach, so mark my words. There's gonna be a player who says he did the same thing to me that he was talking about Doc doing. Because see, when you're a coach, I don't think JJ's ready for the fact that there's going to be a lot of things that he isn't ready for, because as a player you see stuff in the locker room, you go through it, practice, film sessions, games, you hear a lot of that, right? But you're only hearing it from that perspective. You don't know that your teammate is going back talking to the coach about how they feel like they need more playing time, and that you're not helping the team and whatever. You don't hear that because you're only privy to what's going on in front, but behind those closed doors you're not. So now as a coach, you're gonna hear all of these guys come up to you, about complaining. You're gonna hear management and ownership complaining about what they want. You're gonna have agents calling you and stuff. You got to make sure everybody buys in. What happens when you make a play call or you call something, and your friend who you've done a podcast with now, who's now playing for you, who has a history of kind of sending subliminal message about stuff with coaches, how are you gonna read when LeBron says something and y'all on like a 5 to 6 game losing streak, and it's not coming together the way you want, and you hear something that makes you wonder? That's when it's gonna be interesting. How are you gonna do your rotations? Because as it stands right now, even with him, they're not a better team than what they were last year. Maybe he does something schematically with how they run their offense, but the way the NBA is now, they're not a better team. They still don't have shooters. Uh, they have people who can defend, but you can't have too many defenders out there that can't shoot, because then teams are just gonna lock in on a couple of guys and force you to shoot. So I'm intrigued. I think he'll. Look. Can he be worse than what they had? Probably this year, but with a veteran team, you're probably gonna have. I would think you might have exactly what you had before in win totals. I'll have to wait to see what the draft is, who they draft, and really more, not really who they draft. More importantly, who they bring in and trade, and who they sign, because you got to have different type of team playing around LeBron. You got to have guys who can shoot, because if I'm them, I'm not bringing in a point guard. Point guard doesn't work with LeBron. Bringing some a guard who can shoot. Maybe he can handle the ball a little when LeBron's not there, but when LeBron's in the game, let LeBron run the point, because that's what he's done. He says he'll work off the ball, but he never does, and it's just his nature. That's just the way he is and how he plays, and I get it. So you got to have somebody else. You can't have a ball dominant guard with him in the game. But we will see. I predict, midway through the season, you might hear some rumblings about, somebody being upset that, and he did all that talk about Doc Rivers, and I ain't getting no playing time. He the same type of coach as Doc Rivers is. We'll see about that. This portion is sponsored by 915 Carpet Cleaning. They take care of all of your needs, whether it's residential or commercial, whether it's flooring or carpet. 915 Carpet Cleaning, they get the job done. Look up 915 Carpet Cleaning, the carpet cleaner you know before you need one. Okay, next is the NBA draft. The NBA draft is tonight, starts tonight. I'm not gonna say I'm not excited. I mean, we have a kid that could be drafted locally, Tristan Newton. They're predicting he's gonna be a second round pick, but who knows that he could be picked late second round. He might not go drafted. He might have to go try out or do a 2-way contract or something. Who knows? I think the kid can play. I'm not in the front office. I've just seen that since he's been in college, he's added so much to the game that he had when he was in high school. So hoping he gets an opportunity to be in that exclusive club of players. So yeah, I'll probably watch it a little, but I'm not like, oh man, I got to see who they pick, because there's not that guy in the draft that you're like, oh man, who's gonna get him? Because last year was Wembanyama, and everybody was excited because they knew who was gonna draft. So there were a couple of guys last year that you were kind of excited about, and really hadn't heard those names this year. Not saying there's no talent, not saying that these guys are going to produce, but it's not like the wow factor. Like when we saw the WNBA draft, there was some wow factor because there was some ladies that you were really interested in seeing playing. So we'll see what happens. Next, I'm gonna talk about Angel Reese with that double double against Caitlin Clark and the Fever over the weekend. She is a workhorse. She can play, and she gives you energy and effort. And a lot of times I tell kids, look, if you're just gonna come with energy and effort, uh, every every game, you're gonna get minutes. Now, if you can do other things, scoring, and add some stuff, rebounding, scoring, passing, now it makes you even more of a threat on the team because you can do more than just one thing. Now, the only thing, because there are some things in her game that I still kind of like, oh, just, like when she's dribbling and when she shoots with her right, she kind of lunges. Now it's been effective. And if that's the way she continues to play throughout her career, then great. For me, I just wish she had a little bit more balance when she's going up to her right and using her body, because it's almost like she's trying to rip around and wrap around. And it seems like at some point that shot's going to get, defended more than what it has been. But I could be totally off. I could be totally off. And, I hope if it works for her, keep doing it. Don't listen to me. I'm just talking about balance because that's kind of one of the things when I'm, showing training with. I do need to see 15 to 16-foot jump shot consistently, because she doesn't do it, and teams are going to start to back off of her more and force her to shoot, and she's not going to be able to just drive into people like she's been doing. They start to build that wall. The more you play, the more they get film on you, and they start to say, okay, look, this is the best way to defend. And then at that point, she's going to have to uh, add that. So, and I've seen her shoot. She has a nice shot. When she's shooting free throws, she has a nice shot. It just doesn't seem like she's comfortable and confident enough to take that shot. But she's going to have to take that shot as games and seasons go by. I can promise that. All right, last thing, you know, Father's Day was two Sundays ago. The missus was sick. She had a cold. So we elected not to do Father's Day because we didn't want anybody to come over and catch. And at first, we wasn't sure if it was, COVID or just a regular cold. It was a regular cold, but she gave it to me as well. I got, I got the cold. But we didn't do Father's Day last week. We elected to do it this week, which was weird because it wasn't considered Father's Day, but it was Father's Day. I had the kids over. And it was a lot of fun. It's certain things that, like, when you're little, you don't think about it as much, but as time goes by, your mind rewinds to that, and you realize how much fun certain things are. As you're older, you really cherish those moments where you have everybody over and you just having a good time. Now, having said that, I decided to my son-in-law had his two kids down, so I decided to go outside and throw a football with them, right? Because it's something I used to do growing up when everybody was over at my grandmother's house. We'd go outside in the street and throw the football at each other and stuff. Sometimes you wouldn't really play a game, but you would just you go deep, all right, and throw it, and you kind of defend each other. So I had to get out there, and the missus was like, I was messing with her, like, you gonna come out there and throw, Miss Breeze? She's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put my jersey on, my Drew Brees jersey, and I'm gonna come out there. So she actually came out there. We threw passes. My daughter wanted to take me one-on-one, so I had to show her my Deion Sanders skills, where she ran like a 5-yard and in, and I just kind of waited for the ball to come. I was in front of her. As soon as that ball left the quarterback's hands, I was on it. I was on it. It was a pick six, and I didn't do my Dion dance. I didn't want to do it like that because it was Father's Day, and I figured if I did my Dion dance, they might get upset and leave. So I didn't want anybody to leave. So I just kind of did my Emmitt Smith impersonation where I just kind of, gave the ball to the ref. And then the missus, decided. I said, you gonna have to defend me. Show me your DB skills. So she lined up in her DB skills, and I was thinking to myself, okay, so her footwork's not there. She's wearing Crocs, even though she got them in sport mode. And I'm thinking, well, if I cut too hard, she's going to fall, and then it's going to hurt because she's been, in pain with her back and her hips and stuff. And I was like, I don't want this to turn into something where we're a year later, we're like, remember the Father's Day where you got hurt and we had to take you to the hospital? And I'm still ready for dessert because she made my favorite lemon meringue pie. So I'm like, I don't want nothing to mess with that pie because if she get hurt, I might have to make her wait for me to take a bite of my pie before I take it to the hospital, right? So I'm thinking about all of this. I do a little cut. I go around, and then they throw the pass in the air, and I decide to myself, she's right there. I'm going to make sure my baby doesn't fall. So with my left hand, my left arm, I got up and made sure I kept her upright, didn't let her fall. In the pass, I just decided to catch it with my right hand because I told him my hands are like stickum. When that ball touches my hands, it's good as gone. It's good as caught, right? So we had a really good time. She actually got to throw the pass. She ran a little route. I threw a pass, and she got a touchdown. And everything was great. And then Monday morning, we had a hard time getting out of bed because we were sore. I wasn't as sore because I'm more active. She was a lot more sore, but we had fun. So I should have had some video of me running them routes and slinging that thing or spinning that thing, as they say. Maybe one day soon I get them back out there and we'll video record some of that stuff so people can see it. But it's in my mind and we enjoyed it. So I really, really had fun throwing the football. And I told him, I said I had to show that I would have been great at any sports, with my athletic ability. Okay, so that's gonna be all for things that interest me. Now, before I get into my basketball ideology, I decided to have a guest. This is one guest that I knew was going to be on the show because he's my producer and he's here. Now, if he hadn't been here when I started, I'd have been like, damn, I know it's just something about me. Nobody want to be on this show. And I'm just having fun because I've reached out to the people and it's on me more to get the date set up to get them back on. But my producer, I'm going to have a Q&A with my producer, Joe Cerna. Joe, how you doing?
Not too bad. We had a little moment before we started the podcast where we both thought we were going to say something, and we both just looked at each other. But other than that, I'm glad to be here. I'm here every time, so I was like, you know what? I'll be the one reliable guest.
Yeah, I started thinking like, man, I hope he don't cancel, because if he cancels, then that's not gonna be a show.
I definitely thought about it.
So I'm gonna do a Q&A with Joe right now. Joe's gonna ask me a few questions, and then we're gonna conversate.
For sure. So, whenever I'll passively watch a game or whatever. More like 30 seconds of a game. Mm-hmm. Usually during dinner, whenever you're watching whatever you're watching.
Right.
And so, just so that we're not just all awkwardly watching it in silence, I'll kind of try to pick your brain about it because, I've competed in other sports, more esports, more online stuff.
Right.
So a lot of those fundamentals kind of transfer over now that I've seen a bunch of other sports now, especially combat sports. I feel like that realm really translates to where I've been in engaged in things. But even in ball sports, even in football, basketball, I see little things where I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty universal. So the other day, you were watching a game, and I asked you, like, what's like the main difference that that female or the WNBA players do that the NBA players don't do. More so in a way that like, so when something is new, not that the WNBA is new necessarily, but now it's starting to get a little bit of traction. You know, maybe some new players in the league or whatever. So like, you know, it's not as developed as the NBA. You know, NBA is established and all of that. So I was more so approaching it from like a like it has yet to really blossom and develop. So what's like the room for improvement essentially in the for the WNBA players?
Okay, all right, that's a good question. Well, when the WNBA started, I want to say it was in late '90s. I think it was the first year they had a season somewhere in there, either the late '90s or maybe early 2000s. I'll look that up. Uh, the talent level has always been there on the wings. Okay, guards and wings. Now more so than ever, guards ball handling and shooting um, is a lot more developed. There are a lot more skilled players. The When it comes to shooting and ball handling, you're starting to see a lot of the ball handling displays and coming out screens and creating space for shots that you see in the NBA when it comes to guards. The biggest reason between the two is obviously athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
The athleticism of the women's game isn't quite there with majority of the players. You have some players who are athletic. You have some bigs that can actually dunk, but you know, going through the lane, dunking on people, you don't see it as much in the women's game. The biggest difference right now, the post players for the WNBA, a majority of them are true post players, and you know they have that speed issue, the fast twitch muscles with moving their feet, you know, and defending. Now there are some that can defend out on the perimeter, so it kind of reminds me of post players back in the '80s and '90s that you know didn't want that felt uncomfortable out on the perimeter guarding smaller guards because they couldn't really move as fast laterally. Not every single one, but there was more. I say out of 10 people, maybe 6 to 7 had trouble moving out on the perimeter defensively and offensively. So I think as the game blossoms, as the players are really um, given skill work and developed, I think you will start to see more of the bigs start to take on what you've seen in the NBA, where you have more bigs that can handle the ball and shoot. They move better out on the perimeter. Now, look, it's going to be hard to have a 6'7" uh, uh, post player or center guard a 5'11", 6 foot guard that has handles, can shoot, and is lightning quick. You're never going to be able to guard that, but it should start to be a little bit more balanced. I would say probably in the next 5 years, you'll probably see some of these new post players come in that are a little bit more skilled.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning whenever I asked you that originally that the WNBA players are a lot more fundamentally sound because
Mm-hmm.
they can't just rely purely off of athleticism, and that kind of reminds me of other things I've been in where like, you know, early on, again, not that WNBA is new or anything, but like early on when it's starting to blossom, like more fundamentally sound players exist, and then there's like a little star kind of like staff for the NBA, and then everyone kind of levels up around that one star. So is that the kind of the case with like Caitlin Clark and like the other girl that you mentioned earlier, where like they're kind of the stars right now because they do something a little bit different than everyone, and you see people adapting to that and almost like integrating that style.
Well, there are lots of stars that have been in the WNBA historically that are really good players, and they're better at this point than what Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are. The spotlight is on them because you know, and some people don't want to admit it, but with Caitlin Clark ascending with how she's able to shoot the ball, it's sort of Steph like, with deep threes. She can heat up really fast, and you're like, oh my God, here she goes. This is going to be a 40-point game, and those type of stuff. So the attention has really started to kick up. It was trending up. It was starting to be more eyes, but I think with her coming in, she came in at a time, and it's like now the league is really being watched. Angel Reese's popularity is one, because of the, not that she can't play, but I think the biggest attribute with her has been her the trash talking, and the fact that she beat Caitlin Clark, and she did Caitlin Clark's famous John Cena hand movement whenever she's winning, and Angel Reese did it back to her after she won when they won the championship. So uh, they're adding they're bringing a new generation of fan in. And the I heard someone talking about it, and it was like, if you've only started watching WNBA because of Caitlin Clark, I can't talk to you about basketball because you don't know anything, right? And that's where we are right now. Now, fundamentally, right now, the women's game is more fundamentally sound, and that's always been because on the women's side, they didn't always have the explosiveness, the ball handling and stuff. So women were taught more fundamentals. Now men are taught for the fundamentals, but with the women you have to be a little bit more fundamentally sound. Now the game has started to push to where, yeah, they're fundamentally sound, but they're starting to have the ball handling and stuff that you didn't see as much. I'm not saying they couldn't dribble, but the way people dribble that ball now, the aggressiveness and fouling is something that looks like it's in the 80s with the way women's style play is, and that's attributed to them not being as athletic and being able to move and turn those fast twitch muscles and react with certain things.
So I guess going off of that, would the WNBA, like, would those players be a little bit more? Would that be better to learn off of because they're more fundamentally sound? Because if your fundamentals are really strong, that's a lot easier to translate. Because you can't just be like, I don't know any like exceptionally like athletic NBA player, but like you can't really replicate that, right? Like you can replicate strong fundamentals, but you can't replicate like the it factor.
Mm. That's a great question. Huh. I would possibly have to say, if you're modeling your game, maybe right now at this point, there are absolutely high level NBA stars that are really fundamentally sound. They're not as quick. They don't have the flashy handles or the shooting, but they are extremely effective and hard to guard because they're fundamentally sound. Like guys like Nikola Jokic, they call him the Joker. He's fundamentally sound. He's not very athletic. He's long. He's big, but he can shoot. He can use it. His footwork is impeccable. And there are numerous other ones. That one's the one that popped into my head with fundamentals. On the women's side, because most of them haven't gotten into their bag, as they say, with the ball handling and the counter moves, they rely a lot more on fundamentals, coming off screen, catch and shoot, pump fake, one dribble, pull up jump shot, and then maybe have a step back. So I would possibly have to say maybe right now, the women's game. The women's game, because they are more, as a whole unit, they're more fundamentally sound. Now, the men's side, they obviously are fundamentally sound, but you see a lot more sizzle in their game than as a whole. Doesn't mean nobody's doing fundamentals. You got to do fundamentals, but yeah.
Okay. one thing, but I'll comment on off of that. It's kind of interesting that you mentioned Jokic is very fundamental because and not only in the sports or the competitive scenes that I've been in, but it seems like it almost seems universal that like European players are very fundamental. They're not so flashy like we are in America. Like we sometimes we rely on that flash to like kind of elevate us, but it seems like European players they're very fundamental in almost every sport that they're in.
Yeah, well, it's a contrast in how players are developed. European players from early age, they're put in what they call academies, and they don't play as much. They don't play as many games every weekend. They work on fundamental, simple stuff: footwork, ball handling, shooting, moving without the ball, the passing, like the four cornerstones of basketball is what you tend to see in the European game. In the American game, from an early age, there's a little development. Now, with me, obviously, it's all about development, but as a whole, there's more playing because parents think that well, my son is gonna or daughter is gonna get better because they just have to play. They just have to play. They just have to play, and they play tons of games, and then at the end of the season, they look up and they say, well, my child is the same child as what they were at the beginning of the season, and that's because they're not developed. So the European game is vastly superior in developing as a whole. Now, my level of what we do is really what should be done here in the states on a across the nation type basis. But I mean, I can only take care of what I can take care of. Now, as players get older, American players have always been more athletic. So a lot of times that athleticism, playing above the rim, will often cancel out a lot of that fundamental play that you see Europeans play. And the most interesting thing is we hear so much about how fundamentally sound passing the ball, cutting, and all of that European players are. But Luka Doncic, he's more of an American player because he don't pass the ball. He doesn't play off the ball. He doesn't play defense. I mean, he tries, but he's not the typical European style player with how he plays. He plays more Americanized with the ball handling, the flashy moves here and there, and those things. So as a whole, Europe would I would say is ahead of us simply because they've made more of a decision to do it. If America as a whole decides to step back away from so many games and force development, unfortunately, you put athletic guys that are fundamentally sound, then European players really will struggle because fundamentally they're just as good, but athletically they lack.
I see. Where I come from, we call that eating your fruits and vegetables. Your fundamentals are your fruits and vegetables. You gotta eat them. You can't just, if you're a flashy player, you're a soda drinker. But I'll leave it at that and take away the rest of the show.
I like that. Fruits and vegetables are your fundamentals. The flashy is the soda. Well, I guess I was a fundamentally flashy player, huh? Or a flashy fundamental.
You can have
player.
both. It's a balanced meal.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot better. Hey, y'all, I've lost almost what is it, 15? I think I'm almost at 15 pounds. So, your boy has been eating better. Now, I tell you what, I had to eat a little bit yesterday out of my comfort zone, so I ate some bad food, and not bad food. I just didn't eat what I normally eat, and I could feel it. It was weird. The whole day I don't want to say I felt bloated, but I didn't feel like myself. It was weird. So it's like you notice when you do a total change of habit and lifestyle and how you eat, how those things are going. So I appreciate the Q&A. I actually like the Q&A, Joe. We're gonna have to make that a segment maybe once a month, where we sit down and and talk about, those things and see if I can help enlighten them. And I appreciate the fact that you have really started to want to learn and ask those questions every now and then. Okay, so now I'm going to go into my basketball ideology. All right, one thing's gonna be fairly quick. First thing I'm gonna cover is step back move. Now the step back move, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 90% of my audience, the four people. No, I'm just playing. The four people that listen to my podcast, 3.5 of them know basketball. Now the 0.5 that don't really know basketball, they listening because they family members and they want to just support, hi mama. No, I'm just yeah, those people that don't really follow the game or see it in its intricacies probably don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to explain. And Joe might not know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna explain. A step back move is a move that a player makes to free themselves up for a shot. Okay, so imagine if you're at the top of the key, you're in a triple threat, a defender's defending you, and you go right. So you sweep, pump fake, or jab, and you start to drive to the basket going right. You take 2 dribbles, and I always tell players you have to be a threat to go to the basket. So I'm going to towel this in. So as you go towards the basket, on your second dribble, going into your second dribble, the defender is usually thinking that you're going to go shoot a layup. So the defender is going to start to play the layup, stay close to you, and meet you there. It is at this point that as you're taking your second dribble with your right hand, you're planting your left foot and you're taking a bounce. As you take that bounce, you sort of lunge or hop over to your right. So if you were to draw a line, this would be like an upside down L. This is called a L step back, where you dribble up, and then you move to the side to your right. Okay? And now the defender is thinking layup, but you've now stepped to the side to pull up and shoot a jump shot. Okay? That's an L step back. A V step back is the same thing, but instead of going to the side, you kind of come right back in the shape of a V, an upside down V, if that makes any sense. Or it looks like a tent, if you would. Okay, so those are the 2 primary step back moves. Now, what makes a step back move most effective is because the offensive player is really driving towards the basket. What makes a step back move ineffective is when the offensive player makes the move, but instead of driving towards the basket, they start to drive towards the wing or towards the corner. So their initial move is not straight. Their now initial move is more at a 65 or 70 degree angle. And if you're looking at it from drawing a line and then a line and then a straight line, if you got an angle, watching that angle, you're going away from the basket. Okay, so when you go away from the basket, most defenders that know how to play defense, not even elite defenders, will now understand that you are not driving for a layup. So now I can pretty much play any type of jump shot you make. So I see a lot of players, obviously, when I'm training, and when I see games where I'm seeing a lot of inexperience with players utilizing step back jump shot without understanding how to utilize it. They don't understand that you got to be a threat. So you have to be a threat driving to the basket to open up that shot. If I'm driving away from the basket, I'm not a threat to score a layup, which makes the defender have to just defenders now like, hey, I can just hone in on this one type of shot that they can shoot to score. Second thing about doing step backs is understanding if you're right-handed and you drive left, although it feels more comfortable, you have to really create that separation because the defender is now on your right side if you're a right-hand shooter. If you're driving to the right, the defender is on your left side, which now when you go into a step back motion, even if you don't do it like it's crisply, I'm not even, let me start over with that because that even sounds weird. That's a TAS word. That's not a SAT word. Even if you execute it perfectly in the step back motion, or no, even if you don't execute it perfectly going to your right and that defender's on it, the defender's on your left. So unless that defender is so much taller with longer reach, you're going to get that shot off. So I see a lot of kids, players, I'll say players. I see a lot of players not understand how to execute. And I've seen players that if they're going to do, if you tell them, hey, this is going to be a catch, you're moving without the ball from the wing. You drift up, you catch the pass at the top. We're going to do a pump fake, one dribble, pull up jump shot. Some players can't do a one dribble pull up jump shot or a two dribble pull up jump shot. They have to step back. They always step back. And I had a player that I had to try to explain it to and say, you're stepping back for no reason. First of all, you're not getting any distance when you take your one dribble. You're basically right where you were when you caught the ball. Look at where that defender is. That defender is going to be able to contest it. So you have to get, when you go pump fake and you take a dribble, you have to create distance on that one step to get past that defender. And then what you do is you bounce it, you get past him, and then you step back, but you don't do an L step back. You do a V step back. Now, all of that work to get past the defender, you're right back in front of that defender again, and that defender can make an easy contest to try to take away that shot. So it's really misapplied, and I've had to really correct a lot of kids, and I think it's starting to take hold because I have parents, and the kids are saying, Coach, I did the step back jump shot. And the first question I asked is, did you get the shot that you wanted? And they say yes. Whether they made it or miss it, I tell them it's a success. Now we can continue to learn. Now, I actually had a player, just thinking about it, I had a player last night that said, you know what, it was against the 2-3 zone. They had the ball kind of on the top, and they went to dribble, and they stepped back. And the player said, well, I said, did you get the shot you wanted? And they was like, well, kind of, it was contested. And I had them to walk down and explain. Well, it wasn't the person on the top. So if I'm facing the goal, the two defenders at top, right, the one that's on my right and one that's on the left. So typically in the 2-3 zone, if I start to drive to the right or I pass the ball to the right, the top defender on the right side that's their responsibility. The top defender on the left side is supposed to go down to the middle and drop like in the middle of the paint area. Okay. Well, at what this player described to me was that player didn't drop down to the middle. That player ran all the way over underneath to help and try to contest the shot. So that player was the reason why they had difficulty getting that shot off because they weren't expecting that player to be there. They did the move. The move was executed with that player, but the other player was all out of position. And what I told him was, I asked him, I said, so how do you think you could have, countered that? And usually when I ask this question, it's all about me trying to pick their brain and see if they understand how to counter to score. So the player was like, I could have, hesitated and did this. I said, yeah, that's one way, but think about it. You're hesitating and you're driving into the teeth of a 2-3 zone. Now you're going to be surrounded by 4 people. And I just simply said, the person on the wing, you got to punish this person for being for not knowing how to play a 2-3 zone. You should have been looking to make that pass over there because that's a wide open three. And now what happens is that coach should call a timeout and tell that player, why are you over there? This is where you're supposed to be. You know. So it was a good teachable moment because the player was like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what? They see it. And it's my job sometimes to have them explore, but it's also my job to make sure they understand how to play the game correctly. And that would have been the correct way because I would have loved if somebody would have ran all the way over there, out of position. That's an easy three for my teammate. Like, oh, you running all the way over here? Okay, boom, that's a three. Now keep running over here. Now you're not gonna come because you don't want that player to shoot that three, and now I get to roast your teammate the way I wanted to in the first place. So yes, step back move is widely misapplied, and it's done in ways. And I'm not just talking about on the youth level. I'm saying college as well as pros. It's not applied the way it needs to be. So hopefully I correct them on my end. Hopefully, some people can really start to see that they need to kind of work on it if it's not, it's not working the way they want. All right, so this last point I'm going to talk about is setting goals for yourself. I feel strongly that this can break players out of shyness. This can make players be more confident uh, when it comes to playing sports. When you let them set goals. So I'll give you an example. I'll ask the player, okay, so how many times do you shoot a game? And they'll say, 3 times a game. But they're the point guard, right? I say, okay, so when it comes down to touches, how many times do you think you touch the ball per game? And then they're not really sure. And I have to say, look, you're the point guard. So you probably touch the ball more than anybody. You probably touch the ball anywhere between 50 and 100 times a game. So for you to only take 3 shots a game, I'm sure you could take a few more shots. So I asked them, well, how many shots do you think you could take a game that you look back and say, you know what, I had a shot there? And they'll say, maybe 6 or 7. Okay, all right. So let's go with that number 6 right now. We're going to set a goal that we're going to shoot at least 6 times a game, every game. Okay, now these shots don't mean full court and half court heaves. These shots don't include free throws if you get fouled. These will include jump shots, floaters, layups, etc. Right? You must shoot at least 6. Now, if you get to 6 and you still got a lot of time and you still have an opportunity to shoot more, then you shoot more. Okay? You don't rush shots and just try to ball hog, but you try to get shots within the confines of the offense that you're running. Then I tell them, so let's say you have 2 games where your target was 6, but you end up taking 8 or 9 shots and it felt good and it was comfortable and stuff. Now we're going to adjust it. No longer will you be shooting 6. We're going to go up to 8. And 8 is what you're going to be shooting every single game. Okay? We need to figure out how many rebounds you get. You get 3. Okay, we're going to try to get 5, at least 5 rebounds a game. You get any assists, you get 4 or 5. Okay, we're going to try to get at least 3 to 5 assists. And it depends on the age. Now, obviously, if they're a little bit older, then I'm going to, want more, especially for my point guard. We don't want any turnovers, no more than 1. We want to try to get a steal, maybe a block, right? So now we've created a stat line. This is your new stat line. This is what you're going to do every single game, okay? We obviously, if we're taking 8 shots, let's just say we're gonna hit, 30% of those shots. So let's say we hit 3 out of 8. then we should be having anywhere between 6 and 9 points a game. Obviously, we can adjust it as it goes, depending on the position and the kind of shot selection that you're taking. Okay, this is a stat line, and this is a goal. It's a short-term goal. And here's the thing about it: we're gonna write it down. We're gonna have our parents to keep track. And every game that you don't reach this goal, it's gonna be a consequence. Whatever it is that you decide that we all agree on, that's a real consequence. Consequence that you decide isn't, well, I don't get to play Fortnite tonight. No, 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 no. We need some real consequences. So we're gonna make it to where, maybe you got to do 100 push-ups, or maybe you got to do so many sprints, or whatever it is. But we need to make that punishment to where it's something in the back of your head, like, man, I got to get my stats. What this will do is this will teach you consistency, because you start to do it enough. Now you're not doing it because it's your stat line. Now you're doing it because you're being consistent. When you look at players on teams, high level teams, college, even high school, pros, they all have stats. They have averages. This guy averages 26 points a game. He gets about 15 to 19 shots a game, right? That's what you're going to get with that player. Every game he comes in, you're going to get this amount of steals. You're going to get this amount of rebounds. Whatever it is, on average, that's what you're going to get. Of course, you're going to have a bad game here and there where you might not shoot. Maybe they're sending 3 or 4 defenders at you, so you can't shoot, so you adjust. Those things happen. But the fact is that by putting those goals up, it will start to make you be more of a complete player. You will start to want to do it. Every single kid that I have done this with has had success. Now, do they continue it throughout their games? I tend to think that not everybody will do it to that extent, that want to be able to shoot more, but they do more than what they were doing before, right? So I know it's something that's good and that helps. But I would say, instead of points scored, I would say you start off with the amount of shots you're taking. Because you could say, I'm going to score 10 points without understanding that you're going to have to take more than 5, because you're not going to make 5, unless you get 3 or 4 steals and you're getting wide open layups. You get 5 layups a game, that's going to be 10 points, right? So, but if you give yourself a buffer and say, hey, well, you need to take 9 shots a game, you're probably going to get your 10 points, right? Because you're going to take more shots. So it's just, kind of a numbers thing with figuring out what you're comfortable with. And that's what you have to be. You have to be comfortable with it. You have to make sure that, it's not going to be something where your coach is going to be saying, hey, don't shoot the ball. You're shooting too much. If your coach is relying on you to score, then it's fine. If you have other teammates, then you might have to kind of adjust and then kind of, move your totals up, every 3 or 4 game, try to adjust up or down or what have you. So that's setting a goal. That's a short-term goal that actually leads into a long-term goal. Once you get it, you're going to have it. And it's something that you can actually take throughout middle school, high school, college, and pros, if that's what you're doing. Unless, once you get into pros, sometimes you're not going to be asked to do the same things you did in college, okay? All right, so that's going to be all for today. I hope you enjoyed everything, the basketball ideology, the Q&A, and the weekly things that interest you. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say, people, that anytime if I tell y'all something, you don't have to worry about reading it on Facebook or somewhere else, 24 to 48 hours later, that I did something completely different than what I told y'all. I think I'm gonna be true to what I do. If I'm gonna be out, I might say, man, I might be looking to leave, Or I might just, if I might put it out there. I'm not sure, but that's might be what I might be looking at doing. Or I might just not say anything. Hell, you can't get on me if I don't say anything, unless you heard me say I wasn't going to do it, and then I turn around and do it. So that's going to be all for today. I hope everybody, enjoys their day and week and months and summer, and have fun and enjoy each other and stuff like that. Remember, like, subscribe, follow, and comment. Oh, yeah. Right before I finish, yo, man, your boy has been going sub-viral on TikTok. Now, I have a TikTok for the business, and I don't have the profile. I don't do anything. It's taken care of by my team. My team does my TikTok. So they just tell me, yo, this video you posted had 800 views. And I'm like, for real? Okay. This video you just posted, I think after like a day, it was at like 1,500 views or something. So I'm sub-viral right now. I'm not viral. I'm not at the 3 million, stuff like that. I'm just having fun. Look, if I actually was told that I had somebody that commented that loved the content that I did. I was going through an actual drill and broke the drill down, and the coach said that they were going to let their players, they were going to try with their players to help. So, look, I don't have to have 3 million followers or 3 million views. I look at it like this: if I'm able to help one person, that's great. That's great. If I help one person with something that they were like, man, I've been stuck with this, or I've been trying to help the kids that I maybe train, or the kids that are on my team, and this helps tremendously. I've affected 10 to 12 people. And if they send it and they tell somebody, it goes on. So I'm happy, and I wasn't choked up, but I felt a really good sense of pride, like I do when I teach my kids something. They learn something in training. So I appreciate it. Now, if I get to those 3 million, then your boy is going to have somebody else doing his podcast. I won't be doing it. I'm going to have my people do my podcast for me. No, I ain't going to change. I'm going to be same dude that I've been. So, yeah, if you get a chance to check my podcast, check out my TikTok. I'm not doing no dances. You don't tune in. You ain't going to see me doing no dances. Maybe a basketball dance, but I'm not going to be doing no TikTok challenges and stuff like that. No, I'm not trying to go there. I'm going to use it for what I've been using it on my Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and podcasts. It's just to try to share my knowledge and stuff. So with all of that being said, I'm going to end it the way I always do. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I'm out.
Street cred sports, say it with your chest. Yeah. Go get it from the net. Street cred sports, okay, that's a bet.